Hello. In this video, we are going to apply what we learned about different geometry terms and structures to solve some problems. Before you watch this video, please take a moment and attempt the example problems on the worksheet yourself. Make sure that you've thought about them before we go through their answers. So the first thing that we're going to look at is we have this diagram with a plane here, and I see a line, I see another line, and I see a bunch of points. And we're asked 5 different questions. What is another way to name line AD? So if I look, I see that line AD is this line right here. And remember that to name a line, you need to name 2 points that are on that line, or a lowercase letter that's labeled. So because they don't give us any other points on the line, I am going to consider different ways that I could, or they don't give us a name for the line, I'm going to consider different points that I could use. They've already used AD, but maybe I could use line DF. I could also use line AF. And then remember that you can switch things around. So I could do FA, AD, or DA, or FD. So they do ask for one way, but that's a lot of ways that you could name that line. What is another name for plane P? So they used P because P is the cursive letter that's being used to name it. And then remember that we could use any 3 non-collinear points. So we're looking for three non-collinear points. And this is very important because the one wrong answer here is EDC, because they're all points on the same line. But you could do plane EDB, DCB, BCE, BDE. Any of these combinations where I'm not just picking the 3 points on the line. You notice I am not using the letter P because P is not actually a point, since it doesn't have the dot next to it. So name 3 collinear points. I could say points A, D, and F. You could say points E, D, and C. Do you see any other combinations that you might use? Be careful including point B, because there is no clear line that has that and 2 other points on it. Our next step is for coplanar points. And so I'm going to look at the plane and consider points that are all on that plane. So I see points E, D, C, and B. And our final question for this diagram is, what is the intersection of line AD and plane P? So plane P shows up over here. So where are they touching each other? Well, I see that the line goes through the plane right in the middle at point D. So the intersection is going to be point D. I know it's not other areas because if I consider point E, well, line AD is not actually there. Same with point C or B. In our second diagram, let's consider 3 segments in the diagram. So remember, segments have endpoints. So I could say segment AB. So I could put AB with a line segment over it. You notice I am not putting arrows because these are segments, not lines. I could do segment BC or segment AC. Remember that when you're talking about a segment, you have to use that symbol. You can't use the one with the arrows because that would tell me we're talking about a line. Now let's think of some rays in the diagram. And before we label them with letters, let's draw them on our picture. I see this ray right here. I also see this ray starting at point A. I see this ray starting at point B and going towards A, or starting at point C and going towards A. So we could name all of those different rays. And remember that you always start with the endpoint. So I might name point or ray BA or ray CA. I could also do ray BC and AC. Can you think of another way to name ray AC? We could also name it ray AB, because B and C are both in the same direction from point A. Our final question asks us to name a pair of opposite rays in the diagram. Remember, opposite rays need to share the same endpoint. So out of the 4 rays that we drew, which ones share the same endpoint? Exactly, the ones that start at point B. So they start at point B. So we could name rays BA and BC. And remember, we always start with our endpoint. So now that you've watched some example problems, I want you to take a minute and fill in your learning summary and questions. Here you might summarize a couple of key facts that you learned, maybe things that stood out to you because you didn't know them before. And if you still have any questions that came up as we were going through, make sure you fill in this final reflection section. Thank you guys and have a wonderful day.